My name is Natalie Carter. I'm 29 years old. And for most of my life, I believed that being careful with money meant I was cold, that protecting what I earned made me difficult to love. That belief didn't come from nowhere. I grew up watching my mother rebuild her life from scratch after my father emptied their joint account and disappeared without warning. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence and overdraft notices. So I learned early that love doesn't pay bills, and trust, once misplaced, can cost you everything. That's why I thought I was being smart when I met Lucas Moreno. We matched on a dating app in late summer. He was charming without trying too hard. Soft-spoken, attentive, the kind of man who asked real questions and actually listened to the answers. Our first date was supposed to be coffee. It turned into lunch, then a walk through the city, then drinks. 6 hours later, I remember thinking, this feels easy. Lucas was 28, worked in marketing strategy, talked about eventually starting his own consulting firm. He had ambition, or at least he spoke the language of it fluently. He mentioned, casually, that he was staying with a friend for a bit after a roommate situation went bad. I didn't press. I should have. By week 3, he was staying over most nights. His toothbrush appeared next to mine, a charger by the couch, extra clothes in my drawer. It felt natural, comfortable, like momentum. My apartment wasn't fancy, a one-bedroom I'd worked hard to afford, but it was mine, fully in my name, my safe place. Then came the conversation that split everything into before and after. It was a Saturday morning. Pancakes, coffee, sunlight pouring through the kitchen window. Lucas was scrolling on his phone when he looked up, suddenly serious. "I've been thinking," he said. "I really love being here. This feels like home." I smiled. "I like having you here too." He exhaled, like he'd been waiting for that. "I'm just tired of living out of a suitcase. My friend needs her space back." "Have you found places to look at?" I asked. He set his phone down carefully. "Actually, why am I looking when I'm already here all the time?" My fork paused midair. "You mean, we could make it official. I could move in." The word official landed heavier than it should have. "We've been dating 2 months," I said gently. "Almost 3, he corrected, smiling. "And when you know, you know." Something in his tone tightened my chest. "I really like where we are," I said, "but moving in is a big step. I think we need more time." His expression shifted. "So you don't see a future with me?" "That's not what I said." "My parents moved in after 6 weeks," he added. "They're still together." "I'm glad that worked for them." Silence stretched. Then he nodded. "You're cautious. That's one of the things I like about you." Relief washed over me. But then he tilted his head. "If I do get my own place, it would help if I had stable housing history." My stomach tightened. "What if you added me to your lease?" he asked lightly. "Just as a backup. It would show landlords I'm stable." I stared at him. "If you're getting your own place," I said slowly, "why would you need legal access to mine?" His smile faded. "It's about trust, Natalie. If you really trust me, you'd put my name on the lease. A piece of paper, legal rights, access to my home." "I don't feel comfortable with that," I said. His jaw hardened. "So you don't trust me?" I felt the old guilt tug at me, the one I promised myself I'd never obey again. "You're right," I said calmly. "Maybe I don't trust you that much." The silence was arctic. Lucas stood up, left his pancakes untouched, and disappeared into the bedroom. An hour later, he emerged smiling, apologetic, blamed stress. That night, everything seemed normal. The next morning, he was gone. And so was my laptop. I woke up at 9:47 a.m. on Sunday with that soft, lazy calm you get when you think the day belongs to you. For a few seconds, I didn't even register the silence. Lucas usually woke before me. He'd make coffee. He'd hum under his breath like he owned the morning. Sometimes he'd crawl back into bed and kiss my shoulder like it was a habit he'd earned. But the other side of the bed was cold. No weight in the mattress, no warmth, no faint scent of his cologne lingering on the pillow. I sat up, blinking, scanning the room. The overnight bag he always left by the chair, gone. The hoodie he'd thrown over my dresser, gone. At first, my brain tried to protect me. He went to get coffee. He ran an errand. He's being sweet and picking up brunch. Then I walked into the bathroom. His toothbrush wasn't next to mine anymore. His face wash, gone. The charger he kept plugged in by the couch, gone. And that's when the air changed, the way it does right before something drops. I went to my desk. The space where my laptop should have been looked wrong in a way my body understood before my mind did. My MacBook Pro, my entire livelihood, was missing. I didn't just use it for emails and Netflix. I used it for design work, client calls, invoices, contracts, deadlines. It held drafts, proposals, files, things I could not recreate with a snap of my fingers. My iPad was still there. My wallet, my keys, everything else untouched. Just the one thing that mattered most. My heart started pounding so hard it made my hands shake. I called him, straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Where are you?" Then immediately, "Did you take my laptop?" No response. I checked my apartment again, like a woman who didn't want to believe what she already knew. Maybe I'd moved it. Maybe I'd left it somewhere stupid. Maybe I'd put it in the closet during cleaning and forgotten. But no, I had left it on my desk last night, plugged in, because I had work to do today. It was gone. I called him again and again until my thumb felt numb. At 11:30 a.m., finally, a text came through. "Lucas, I needed to borrow it for a work thing. I'll bring it back." I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just called him immediately, like a reflex. This time he answered. His voice sounded normal, calm, almost annoyed, like I was interrupting him. "You took my laptop," I said, the words coming out thin, sharp, without asking. "I needed it for a presentation," he replied. "Mine died last night, and I have a client meeting tomorrow." "Lucas, you can't just take my stuff." "Relax," he said, like the word could erase what he'd done. My throat tightened. "That's theft," I said. A laugh, short, incredulous, burst through the phone. "Theft? Are you serious right now? We're dating. Couples borrow each other's things." "Borrowing requires asking first," I snapped. "Where are you? I need it back today. I have work." "I'll bring it tonight." "No," I said, and my voice surprised even me. Steady, hard. "I need it now. Tell me where you are and I'll come get it." There was a pause. Then his tone shifted, just slightly. "Jesus, Natalie," he said. "You're being so controlling right now." The word hit like a slap. Controlling. That was the word men used when women didn't comply. "This isn't about control," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "This is about my property that you took without permission." "I said I'll bring it back," he repeated, slower now, as if speaking to a child. "And I'm saying I don't trust you to do that after what just happened." Silence. Then, click. He hung up. For a second, I just stared at my phone like it might apologize on his behalf. Then rage flooded in. Not wild rage, worse. The cold kind. The kind that makes your skin go tight, your jaw ache, your thoughts sharpen into a single point. He's punishing me because I didn't give him what he wanted. I texted, "Return my laptop now." No reply. I texted again. "This is not a joke. I have work. This is my livelihood." No reply. Hours passed. My apartment felt different, like it had been breached. Every corner suddenly seemed too open, too vulnerable. I kept replaying the breakfast conversation in my head, the way he'd framed it, the way he'd smiled right after, the way he'd retreated into the bedroom like he was strategizing. Like the relationship had never been a relationship at all, just a negotiation. That night he didn't show up. No laptop, no text, no call. By Monday afternoon, I had left him 8 voicemails and sent at least 20 texts. Still nothing. Then Tuesday morning, he finally responded. "Lucas, stop harassing me. I'll return your precious laptop when I'm ready." My hands went icy. There it was. Not borrowing. Not a work emergency. A weapon. A punishment. My chest hurt in a way that wasn't just fear, it was humiliation. Because I had let him into my home, my space, my life. And now he was holding my work hostage like it was a toy. That was the moment I stopped hoping he'd do the right thing and started treating him like what he was proving himself to be. I called the police non-emergency line. Explained everything. We'd been dating just under 3 months. He had access to my apartment. He left and took my laptop without permission, and now he was refusing to return it. The officer I spoke with sounded sympathetic, but tired, like he'd heard this story too many times. "Technically," he said, "if he had access, and you were in a relationship, it can be a gray area. He can claim you gave him permission." "I didn't," I said. "I have texts." "That helps," he admitted. "Do you have proof of ownership?" "I have the receipt and serial number." "Okay, you can file a report, but these domestic situations are difficult to prosecute." Domestic. Like this was just a lover's spat. Like my career being ripped from my hands was an emotional misunderstanding. I filed the report anyway. Case number 2024-87453. It wasn't justice, but it was a line drawn in ink. I texted Lucas. "I filed a police report. Return my laptop by end of day or I'm pressing charges." He called immediately. "You did what?" His voice shot up, suddenly heated. "I filed a police report," I repeated, "for theft." "You're insane," he hissed. "I was going to bring it back anyway." "Great," I said. "Where and when?" "This is so typical of you," he snapped. "Paranoid, controlling, you treat people like criminals. You took something that doesn't belong to you and you won't return it," I said. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "That is literally theft." A bitter pause. "Fine," he said. "Meet me at the Starbucks on Maple Street at 6 o'clock. My stomach twisted, because suddenly it felt like he was the one granting me permission, like he was the authority in this story. But I agreed, because I wanted my work back more than I wanted to be right. I got there at 5:45, sat in my car, staring at the entrance, watching strangers come and go with their lattes and their calm little lives. At 6 o'clock, nothing. At 6:15, nothing. At 6:30, still nothing. I called. Voicemail. I texted, "I'm here." No response. At 7:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo popped onto the screen. My laptop. The screen shattered like a spider web. The metal bent. The keyboard splashed with something dark and wet. My blood turned to ice. Then another message came. "Oops, it fell. You can pick it up from the dumpster behind 847 Oak Avenue if you want it back." For a full 10 seconds, I couldn't move. Because in that moment, it wasn't about the laptop anymore. It was about what kind of person does this. What kind of person looks at a woman's livelihood and decides breaking it is the cleanest way to win? I drove to the address. Hands clenched so tightly around the steering wheel they ached. The apartment complex was dimly lit, quiet. The kind of place where the air feels heavy with other people's secrets. I found the dumpster, and there it was. My laptop destroyed, soaked, ruined, like a message, like a warning. I took photos first. My hands shook so badly I had to take 3 just to get one clear. Then I picked it up. It smelled like stale garbage and something metallic, like betrayal had a scent. As I carried it back to my car, the reality settled into my bones. Lucas hadn't just left. He'd made sure I would remember. And the worst part? A small, terrified voice in me whispered, "If he's willing to do this over a lease, what else was he planning if I had said yes?" I didn't sleep that night. I placed the ruined laptop on my kitchen table like evidence in a crime drama, its shattered screen catching the light every time I walked past it, like it was watching me. By morning, whatever shock I'd been in hardened into something colder. Resolve. I went back to the police station with the destroyed laptop, the photos, the texts, the voicemail timestamps. I laid everything out carefully, methodically, like if I stayed calm enough, this would all stay real. The officer flipped through the images, brow furrowing. "The text came from an unknown number?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I don't recognize it." He could claim it wasn't him. Burner apps make this tricky. "So he just gets away with it?" I asked quietly. He exhaled. "You can pursue small claims court for the value of the laptop. Criminal mischief would likely be a misdemeanor, under the felony threshold." Misdemeanor, a word that felt absurdly small for what he'd done. I left the station with the broken laptop tucked under my arm like a wound I couldn't hide. That afternoon, I did what I should have done from the beginning. I opened my browser and typed his full name. Nothing. Then I added words. Lucas Moreno scam. Lucas Moreno theft. Lucas Moreno roommate problem. Still nothing. My chest tightened. Then I remembered something he'd said early on, offhand, almost joking, about how his last living situation blew up and how he didn't really want to get into it. So I searched again. Lucas Moreno roommate. A single Reddit post appeared in the results. It had been deleted. But someone had quoted it in the comments. "Beware of this roommate, Lucas Moreno." My hands went numb. The story unfolded in fragments, but it was painfully familiar. A woman describing how a man moved in fast, pressured her emotionally, asked to be added to the lease. When she refused, he stole electronics and disappeared before she could serve him papers. My stomach dropped. I scrolled. Another comment mentioned jewelry. Another mentioned a laptop. Another mentioned a car title. Different cities, same pattern. I found the username of the original poster and sent a message, my fingers shaking as I typed. "Hi, I think I might be dealing with the same person. Can we talk?" They responded within an hour. "I'm so sorry. He's done this to at least 3 people I know of." 3, at least. They explained that after he stole from them, they discovered he'd done the same thing to a previous roommate. Tried to get added to her lease, trashed the place when she refused, vanished before court. "He doesn't keep a permanent address," they wrote. "That's how he avoids being served. He couch surfs, rotates victims." "What about his job?" I asked. A pause. "I don't think he has one," they replied. "I think this is his job." The words sat heavy on my chest. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. I felt sick, not just because I'd been fooled, but because I'd been selected. Stable income, private apartment, clean credit, no roommates. A safe target. I thought about the way he'd mirrored me, the way he'd listened just enough, the way he'd framed my boundaries as betrayal. I wasn't special. I was next. That night, as I sat on my couch, staring at the blank space where my laptop used to be, a notification popped up on my phone. A Facebook friend request from a woman named Jessica Lane. Her message was short. I think we dated the same person. My heart started racing before I even replied. I accepted and called her immediately. Her voice was steady but tired, like someone who'd already cried all the tears she had for this. Her story unfolded exactly like mine. Met online, dated 6 weeks, pushed for financial entanglement, asked her to co-sign a car loan because his credit was temporarily bad due to identity theft. When she refused, he stole her jewelry and designer bags. About $4,000 worth. Filed a police report. He vanished. I tried to sue, she said, but he was impossible to serve. I eventually let it go because it was consuming my life. How did you find me? I asked. I've been tracking him, she admitted. He deletes accounts after each victim, but he keeps reappearing on dating apps. I recognized your name from a comment you made on a local design subreddit. He posted you once on Instagram before he wiped it, captioned, "Found my person." My stomach twisted. He'd used me as proof of legitimacy. A reference. Jessica wasn't alone. She told me about Marcus, who let Lucas use his address temporarily for mail. Credit cards were opened in Lucas's name with Marcus's address. Marcus's credit was destroyed before he even knew what was happening. And Priya, who loaned him $3,000 for emergency medical bills that never existed. Different angles. Same ending. He keeps everything just under felony thresholds, Jessica said. Different jurisdictions, different victims. No one case big enough for law enforcement to care. So he just keeps doing this? I whispered. She paused. No, she said finally. Not if we stop him. She'd already started a document. Dates, aliases, methods, screenshots. Lucas had used at least 3 different last names. Moreno was probably fake. The scope of it made my chest ache. This wasn't a bad breakup. This was a system, and I had walked straight into it. But for the first time since that Sunday morning, I didn't feel alone. I felt angry, focused, and ready to turn the story around. Because if Lucas thought destroying my laptop would silence me, he had badly miscalculated. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Jessica added me to a shared document that night. It was meticulous. Color-coded tabs, dates, screenshots, copies of police report numbers, links to deleted posts pulled from archives. It didn't read like revenge. It read like evidence. There were names I hadn't heard yet, cities I'd never been to. The same story told in different voices, all ending the same way. Fast intimacy, financial pressure, refusal, punishment, disappearance. Within a week, 5 of us were on a video call. Jessica, Marcus, Priya, the Reddit guy whose PlayStation had vanished, and me. We joked, darkly, about starting a support group. Someone called it the Lucas Survivors Club. The joke didn't land, because what we were really doing was building a timeline of a man who had treated human connection like a business model. Marcus's case was the turning point. Using his address to open credit accounts had crossed into identity-adjacent fraud. Not just theft, not just domestic dispute. Paperwork crimes. Federal ones. Jessica, who worked in IT security, knew how to move carefully. Everything we collected was factual, documented, screenshotted, time-stamped. No opinions, no accusations we couldn't back up. We built a private website. Not flashy, not emotional. Just names, aliases, photos, known tactics, and warnings written in neutral language. Then we posted links quietly in dating app safety forums, local subreddits, roommate finder groups. We didn't tag him. We didn't threaten him. We just made sure that if someone Googled his name or reverse image searched his photos, they'd find us. Within 2 weeks, 3 more people reached out. Same story, different loss totals. The estimated damage climbed past $30,000. That's when law enforcement finally paid attention, because patterns scare institutions more than individuals do. An FBI agent contacted Jessica about Marcus's case, then about the website, then about the cross-state activity. They asked for everything. And for the first time since my laptop shattered in that dumpster, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief, but justice moving, slowly, deliberately, toward the light. 3 months after he walked out of my apartment, Lucas was arrested trying to board a flight to Las Vegas. He had someone else's credit cards in his pocket. Someone new. He'd escalated. And escalation is what finally ends people like him. The district attorney contacted all of us to build the case. Fraud, theft, identity-related charges. They were confident. I probably won't see compensation for my laptop. But when my mother called to check in and I told her everything, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, "I'm proud of you for saying no to the lease thing. That was the moment that saved you from much worse." She was right. The laptop was replaceable. My home wasn't. My sanity wasn't. My future wasn't. I bought a new laptop, better backups, better insurance. I'm still freelancing. I'm not dating yet. But if anyone ever asks me to give them legal access to my life before they've earned trust, I'll smile calmly and say, "You're right. Maybe I don't trust you that much." And I'll walk away without apology.